Hello! Happy Saturday, guys. Welcome to Sacred Para Playland. I am your host, RK. And as you guys may know, hi, House of Echelon. How are you? As some of you guys may know from my previous post, I am being joined with none other than the amazing Nisha K. Hi, Danny, Poppy, and Barbie. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining. I was on here a little bit earlier. Had a little bit of technical difficulties. It popped off, but I'm right back on here again. So, hi, how are you? We had a little technical difficulties. That's what I was just saying. But I am about to phone you on. There we go. So we can get right into it. I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. I am so excited for this conversation that we're about to have. Let's see, did it go through? So the invite has been sent. And I just have to wait for it to transmit. All right. There we go. I'm accepting your invite. So come on now. Hey, how are you? Now trying to get it off of my screen. How you doing? Good. Now I see you.
I know. It's been a minute.
I know. How's life? I love your hair.
Thank you. I just got it done on Monday. Decided to go red.
Okay.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Go. Live a little. Yeah. Live a little. That's what we're doing. Yeah. That's what we're doing right here. Enjoying it. Well, happy Saturday to you. I'm so glad to be able to have you on here with me today.
You to be here.
Yes. Okay. So many of us know about your amazing work. We go right on your page, Nisha K, as well as by Nisha K, where we can see your one scale lifestyle. And I just want to get on here and just chat with you. One of my main things that I think about when I see your different photos and how you do your miniatures, is this something that you've always wanted to do since childhood? What were your childhood aspirations? Was it to be in the world of miniatures?
So, no, I actually wanted to, in high school, I wanted to work with the hearing impaired. So I always wanted to do sign language. And then I took all the science classes, all of that. And I was like, yeah, science is just not my anatomy. You know, all those medical terms was like, no, this is just not up my alley at all. So then this is weird. I was never into fashion. I've always been into creativity and art. Mm-hmm. And fashion marketing, I figured I could be close to it without having to actually make any clothing. So I graduated high school and got my associate degree in fashion marketing. And what I wanted to do was runway. So I wanted to be the one behind the scenes doing the runways, right? Yeah. I get to college and they're like, yeah, that's not a job anymore. Like, it was done. So this is like the late 90s, right? So they're like, yeah, there's no runway coordinators. Like, that job doesn't really exist, building the sets. So then they were like, oh, well, you'll be, perfect doing windows. So after I graduated from college, I did like window displays for different retail stores and boutiques. So that's kind of really close to, miniatures, because you're like creating this world that people can't touch, and they're kind of having to look at it, and the models don't have expressions. And so it kind of morphed into that. And then I was like, this is not paying the bills. And I met my husband. And so I went into the military just because I didn't know what else to do with my life at the time. And when I got stationed in Alaska, my mom bought me a Barbie doll for Christmas. I always loved Barbies, and she was missing. Her little girl was gone, the first time I had been away from home. And so she bought me my first Barbie. And then my husband bought me a Brian Lars Barbie the second year. And I think he regretted that because it just kind of exploded. And so this is like the early stages before Flickr. And so I ended up finding this lady's website, and she was doing dioramas. I was like, what is this? Oh my God, this is so cool. Like, they have furniture and they're little tiny things. And so when I started into dioramas, it isn't the world that it is now. It wasn't a whole lot of stuff that you could buy, going into the store. Now we have Miniverse, we have the Make It lifestyle. Like, we didn't have that. So a lot of the things I had to do was go on eBay and, kind of find people that made stuff. You went to the doll boards. We had doll boards at the time. That's how I'm dating myself. There was doll boards. There wasn't Instagram or Flickr or blogs. There was doll boards, which is how I found out about my Froggy stuff. So I followed her all the way to the beginning when she had on the doll forums and a little bitty teeny tiny blog. And so you kind of got to know other, posters, and they kind of posted dioramas. I was like, this is so cool. And then I saw Cutie Erica, I always tell this story, saw Cutie Erica do a wedding, which was her first and last diorama, right? And was I can do this. I can do this. So I went out and tried to make everything. It was a disaster. But I don't know, I just kind of fell in love with it. It's also like creating your own little world in reality, I was raising two boys at the time. Me and my husband was in the military, and going back and forth, and so I kind of needed that thing that was just for me. And also being a boy mom, it was like I can have furniture that they can't touch. There's no sweaty boys sitting on my couch. There's no soda spills or chip stains. So it was kind of like I want all this really nice furniture, but I can't afford it. And I can't have it because I have, two boys, running around my house. So I started collecting. I saw, it was another blog post. I saw Adventure Miniatures. He kind of fell in love with it. Like, oh my God, I can have all this stuff. It's a miniature. Collecting their furniture, started reaching out to people to do customs. And then when we moved to Alaska, I had learned photography to do dioramas. I saw all of these amazing people on Flickr, and I wanted to be like them. But my photos just was horrible. So I actually bought a camera, did photography classes, right? And then my family found out that I was learning photography, and it kind of shifted from dioramas to just doing portraits. So I did portraits for 2 or 3 years, and then we moved to Nebraska, and all my clientele kind of disappeared. So I was like, well, I got to keep practicing. So I started using my dolls. I had never really shot my dolls up until then, but I didn't have the clientele that I did once we left Oklahoma.
Yes.
And I didn't have family around, and my boys were getting tired of being in front of my camera, and so was my husband. So I started practicing with my dolls, and I started gaining followers, and then it just kind of kept going and going and going and going. And so it just kind of built into where we are now. I mean, I look at the photography when I started out, and I was using my cell phone, which is nothing wrong with that. But I got my first magazine gig, and they're like, yeah, we need it to be higher quality. And I was like, here I am, a photographer, right, who didn't know how to use my camera for my dioramas. Like, I had to train myself how to use it for that work. But it was so weird when they asked me that. I was like, wait, what? Like, I gotta use my camera? Duh, I have one. I know how to use it. I just had never, for some reason, never adapted to that world. So I think the reason that my dioramas and the lighting looked the way it did is because I never learned to shoot dioramas first. I shot people and houses and everything else. So I just shot the same way that I did when I was doing portraits. And it just kind of, I guess people clicked with that. And I guess they found that intriguing. That I use natural shadows. My lighting is all natural, and there's nothing wrong with people that use other types of lighting. But I think for my work, that's one of the things that kind of I think set me apart was the lighting, and it just kind of kept getting bigger and bigger. And then, I was making all these gorgeous rooms, and then I went and got my master's degree, and I get there and they're like, oh, that's fine. You can use miniatures, but what are you saying? I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, they're gorgeous rooms, but you're not saying anything in these photos. And so that kind of morphed into the storytelling, which is where I'm at now. It's just sharing my life. I'm about to be 48. I always forget my age. I'm about to be 48 in a few weeks. And I didn't think I lived an interesting life, but when you kind of add up all those years, and I was a military brat, was in the military. I have all these
Yeah.
stories that is like, okay, well, I'm gonna translate them through my dioramas, and so now I'm at this point where I'm just telling these funny stories, and none of them are to ever be taken serious. They're just funny stories that either I witnessed or someone told me or I experienced, unfortunately, myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of put them all into my diorama and just tell these little funny life stories, and I find that people relate to them. The biggest one lately was a department store, the return section.
Yes. Yes.
The young babies don't understand about standing there, in this smoke-filled place. And it was always dark for some reason. I don't know why. It was just always kind of dreary. And waiting with all these, 20, 30 other people trying to do your return. It was not a very
Yes.
at all. At all. The people that worked at returns weren't very friendly at all either. So it was just not a very positive experience growing up. But it was a lot of people all the way from Australia that was like, oh yeah, I remember those. So it was kind of funny that so many people related to, having to go to these dreary little places
I
to,
agree.
return.
I agree. And that's really the beauty with our
Yeah.
dioramas is whenever you can create relatable storylines and create, relatable content, and it allows you to develop these relationships with people who we may not even speak the same language. You may not even be able to read each other's captions, but we can really feel what's being expressed in the experience of the diorama. And so I love that. I love that. I believe that that's one of the beautiful things about what we do in miniature.
Yes.
And it doesn't take away from any other, hobby that someone does. But when you have miniatures and you're able to create this story, this visual story, it does definitely change the game and allow you to be able to relate to people of all different creeds, races, nationalities, any of that. So
I agree.
I love that. Is this something when it comes to the 1/6 lifestyle, 1/6 scale lifestyle? There we go. Is that something that you can see yourself doing even in elderly age?
Yes. It was funny. I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, I don't know why I went into 1/6. Because, like I said, when I started, it is not readily available like it is now, right? Where 1/12 was. I have no idea why I went into 1/6. As difficult as it is, it's more expensive. It takes up way more room. I have no idea why I just stubbornly continued along the 1/6 scale. I guess it's because I was a doll collector first, but still, it's like I could have scrapped that easily at the beginning and just came 1/12. But and I have way cooler miniatures and just way more stuff. But whatever. Yes,
but
so
you
for
don't have
me,
to. You have to. You look around at our house, at our homes, going over other people's homes, going out somewhere. There's always some extra details, some extra clutter, or there's just piles of paper right here, a container that has pencils or a jewelry box. So you want to have all those little details, and you got to keep up with the stuff. So
it's just it's an ongoing thing. It's just always morphing and changing and adding, and I won't say subtracting. It's always adding to the collection. It doesn't really get subtracted all that often, but as long as my hands hold up, I will probably continue doing this even when no one is watching or listening. This is really like my happy place. It's just I don't know. It's kind of how I share who I am. I'm an introvert, so I like to stay to myself. I'm not a very vocal person unless you know me, and then I don't shut up. But this is kind of how I put myself out to the world. And then lately, it's become my oldest son got married, and he's in Germany. Him and his wife are stationed in Germany, and my youngest son is about to be 21 old. It got to thinking, like, when I leave this earth, I want my grandchildren, future grandchildren, to know who I and even if they only know who I am through my miniature photography, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? To me, that's enough, because you can always tell someone who you are, but for later generations, it's like, oh yeah, I have these hard drives or these prints of her photos or
Yeah.
these designs, and it's really why designs are more important to me. Is that now I can read through like what her life was like. I get a glimpse of it. It's not necessarily her I see pictures of, but I see her work. So for me, it's kind of became this legacy thing of sharing,
Yes.
nieces and nephews too. Was like, hey, that quirky, weird aunt, that was 80, 90 years old that had dolls in her house. This is what she did when she was younger and was capable, this is who she was. So for me, it's kind of morphed into like leaving a little bit of myself behind for the next.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I had a similar experience when my dad passed because I really didn't get a chance to know
Yeah.
him in detail following my parents' divorce, and so we it's not like I didn't know him, but I didn't really spend a lot of time with him. But after his passing, I was able to put my hands on so many of his sermons that it was just a magnificent and magical experience, so
Yeah.
that I could get an idea of who he was
Yeah.
as a preacher, who he was as a writer. I got hold of some of his playwrights or plays, his scripts that he did. So I completely understand you. It's nothing like being able to really hold that piece of history, legacy that someone has, and really building a relationship with them, even beyond the physical limitations. That person's not here anymore. You can still
Yeah.
see
They
and experience
still
them.
see that quirky, aunt that, yeah, I used to come over, and my niece is about to be 13, so those days are slowly going away. But she comes over and she's like, Auntie, can I play with your dolls? And I'm like, yes, because I know
Mhm.
eventually that's going to stop, where she's going to be like, I don't want to do that, like that's weird. And
It
so
may,
she makes her own.
maybe not.
I hope
Maybe not.
not. I hope not. But she comes over and does her own dioramas and takes her own photos. And it's like, look, I see what I did. And I'm so excited and proud of her. But I know those days are eventually, going to get less and less. So I'm like, yes, do it. And also, it kind of helps them to understand. I always tell my nieces and nephews that as you get older, you become adult and you have so much responsibility. You have to have something that makes you happy. And I don't
Yes,
care if it's just coloring in a coloring book or, watching cartoons. If you don't have something to take that weight of the world off of you, you're just going to keep sinking,
that's true.
right? And so for me, diorama is my piece. Is one of the things that I tell people online and offline. I protect it at all costs. I don't allow negativity to enter the space.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what you're about. Then I'm just gonna block you, delete you, or move you out of the way. I'm just not, and for family and friends that don't get it, I just don't discuss it with them, at all.
Yes,
To me, it's like, it's going well, and that ends the conversation. I'm not going to allow you to speak negatively about something that brings me so much joy. You don't have to get it. Um, you can be understanding of it. I'm not asking you to
yes.
report it. I'm just asking you to understand that this is what makes me happy, and to respect that. And if you can't, then uh, just move along. But this
I
is
fully agree.
me. So
And
uh,
that actually answers a question in case anybody was like, how do I express what I do as a hobby to people who may not be into the 1/6 scale life, or
I,
who aren't into the 1/12?
I
And I believe that you answered it. Like, don't let any negativity come into your sacred space.
I don't normally, when I first meet people, I don't normally tell them what I do. I tell them when they ask me, "Oh, I'm a photographer." I always leave with, "I'm a fine art photographer." I don't leave with the portrait part, because that's a whole nother, area that I don't necessarily want to get into. And then sometimes it'll drill down to like, "Oh, what kind of fine art that you want to do?" Well, and I'll say miniature. And then if they kind of press, and I'll just show them my Instagram pages. Um, the one question that I never knew how to deal with until after I finished school was like, "Oh, my daughter would like that." And so now I lead with, "Well, that's fine, but because I'm an adult, I deal with adult situations, and so not all of this is none majority of this is not geared towards children. And they're like, oh well, they're with dolls. I understand that. That's in how I speak my truth into the world.
Mm-hmm.
I use miniatures, I use dolls, but this is not a child's mindset. I'm an adult. I'm a grown woman, and therefore they're gonna enact out adult situations. One of the things I get, how do I put this? One of the things I get pushed on the most is that they have alcohol in the scenes, but you understand that I'm an adult and my dolls in my eyes are grown women that can drink, and so that's going to stay there. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take that out because a child is seeing, alcohol. See it on television, you see it everywhere else. But for me, it's an adult environment, and so that's pretty much. You know, you can always kind of tell when you meet somebody if they're going to be a little wishy-washy. Now, if you come to my house, you're going to see it. And like I said, if it's deterring to the negative, then, I'm just going to lead you another way, and we're just going to keep it moving, because, I'm just not going to allow anyone to make me feel uncomfortable or ashamed or afraid. But also, I've been doing this for 13, almost 14 years, so I've heard it all. Really weird.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I've seen some stuff. I haven't done it as long, but I have seen some different stuff that's on our pages. But I believe one of the things, like you said, one of the things that remembering is that we are adults, and it's okay for adults to still play. It's okay for adults to enjoy themselves. To have hobbies outside of all the other responsibilities that go on a day-to-day basis. This is what kind of helps keep you sane and in a healthy way. I could see if we were doing something that was negative or toxic, hurt other people, and we said this was our way of relaxing, but we're saying that we're taking the experiences that we've had, we are building up a storyline, creating relatable content that not only helps to give us a nice peace of mind and some joy, but it's also a pleasure for someone else to view. So I completely agree with you. One of the things that I always remember, because I do have my background with plays, was just telling people I am working out different storylines with my characters, and I'm able to, instead of having to pay actors to work out a storyline and see, does this work? Does that not work? You're using your dolls, and then you're able to get some feedback from people who are viewing the story, like that works, that probably needs to get tweaked a little. It's a wonderful place to be able to do that as well with our stories and with our dolls. So I love that. I love that you said that. Outside of just the 1/6 scale lifestyle, are there any other hobbies that you do?
I'm a romance novel junkie. I love romance novels, and I love reading. So it's reading. I'm a thrifter. I absolutely love thrifting. My nieces are trying to get me into thrifting clothes. That was a hard one because I beeline for the housewares. I've been doing that for years, so they're slowly trying to get Auntie to update her wardrobe. I have on pink today. Typically, I just wear black all day, every day. But they're both little fashionistas, so they're like, Auntie, let me come. Auntie, we need some color in this closet. So, but thrifting, I love, and this goes along with the dioramas. I love interior design. I love, finding those little tiny pieces that tell a story. I love things that are not perfect, that's been well loved. I like it to be faded or chipped. And I like creating my house where it does tell a story. I want you to walk in and know that Nisha and Leo lives here, right? I want my husband's personality to shine. I want my personality to shine. So it's always, my house is always evolving. So, you'll come one visit, the next visit is like, okay, this room is completely different. But I do work it out in my dioramas first, and then, it normally leads to me like, room. I will say changing out a room is cheaper than doing it in person. Way significantly cheaper. we bought our house last year and decorated it over the past year, and I will definitely say there's quite a few times that I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to pay this much money for a chair. And then my husband's like, did you buy something that was miniature version that was way more expensive? I'm like, that's not the point. The point is I don't want to pay that much money for a chair. You don't understand. He's like, they're not miniatures. They're, you know, it's for us to sit in. There was also a lot of argument with you realize that a doll's not going to sit in that, a human being is, and that's not a comfortable chair. So that was a lot of our conversation. It's like, I want it to look good, and he wanted it to be comfortable. And I'm like, why would it need to be comfortable? Because we have to sit on this, Nisha.
Yes.
It is not just for people to look at it, for you to photograph. So that was some of our biggest arguments, is like, how do we live with this piece versus like, this is not going in a diorama with a doll and no one else is going to touch. Like, it needs to be comfortable. So, but yeah, I will definitely say it's a lot better figuring those spaces and what's the colors out in miniature, and a lot cheaper.
I agree. A lot cheaper.
And
a lot cheaper. And like you said, you get a chance to work it out on a small scale.
Yes. Make sure it works. I will say that I have bought a lot of pieces that I do have in miniature, and then some of them I do have to admit is not really all that comfortable reading wise. But I've committed, and so it will stay. But yeah, there's some chairs at my house that are definitely not human friendly, but they look good, and so for the time being, they're gonna stay because I was stubborn, and it is what it is.
Okay, that's okay. Hopefully, your husband hears you right now, and he's like, "I knew it. I knew it."
Yeah, yes.
It's okay. No,
yes.
I admit mine too.
Yes.
See, there you go. There is nothing wrong with it because it still stays. It still stays.
It still stays for the time being until
it's like, hey, just because it wasn't a mention, it still stays.
It still stays. It looks good, so it will stay as it is right now.
I agree. I want to talk about, so we're talking about new chairs. Let's talk about some new pieces that you have worked on that came in the mail. In case you guys didn't know, not only is she an amazing photographer, interior director, interior designer, not only do you do beautiful and splendid work with your miniatures, but you are also a published author, right? Yes. And these are called designs. And then you also, of course, have your yearly and annual calendar.
Yes.
So this is not, well, no. This one is the human form, or the human size one. I said human form. Human size one. And then you also have a 1/6 scale calendar.
Yes.
So you guys, this comes out, you have this available, I think, in November of each year? Around
typically, December.
November, December, these calendars, yes. Apple Day, Clarissa, hello. She said, love those calendars. Yes, these calendars are amazing. And we will get into the calendars, but before we get into those, I really want to talk about your designs. Now, what makes a design different than just a small book?
So a design is, it's like shortened for magazine. It's more catered to a particular market. So with a design, it's more like an artist book. It could be illustrations, it could be paintings, and it's also a faster way to have like a collection of photos to present, right? You can sit down there, look through the whole scene. For some, it's more writing, that's paired with the art. For me, I always do an artist statement just so you know what the heck I'm talking about in that particular book. And then you just kind of get to the photos. But it's normally just kind of, for me, it's just an established line of work that centers on one particular subject in like a group. I did a lot of these for when I was in grad school. We had to do a lot of projects that dealt with one theme. And so it'd be anywhere from, 6 to 24 photos. And I got so disciplined that when I graduated in January, I didn't know what to do with that, because social media doesn't allow you to kind of do that series, right? Someone may come in and see the third photo, but they didn't see the first or the second to know that it's a series of work all the time, because it doesn't necessarily show it to them. So in a Zine, it's like you get to see the complete work at one time. As my husband liked to describe it in the comic book world, it's a graphic novel. It's all the comic books in one book. You know, you get to see it from start to finish in one complete series. And so that's pretty much what these photos are, is just, you know, in a complete entire series. So Bookish and Serendipity goes along with the calendar. They're all complete different dioramas, right? But then when you get to Mabel, it's one whole complete story that I used to do long time ago on Instagram, but Instagram just makes it so difficult to do stories now that, to me, the only way I can do a story that big is in Zine format. Also, it's really just nice, and this is what my mom tells me all the time. She's not an Instagram person, a social media person. So I used to make her books at the very beginning when I started doing miniature. She's always my biggest supporter. And so I had this subscription plan where every 2 months it would take all my photos off of Instagram and the captions and put them in a book and send them to her, right? I stopped doing it because I was doing so much work. It was becoming way too expensive. But she was the one who kept pushing, like, I miss my books. I miss my books. I miss my books. I'm like, Mom, on Instagram, no one wants to see that in a book format. And she's like, I do. And what I realized is that she sits down and goes through everything. She's like, I don't have to sit there and hold my phone and blow the photo up. I can see every single detail that you put into these rooms. I can feel the whole story. That's what she always tells me. But Nisha, I can't see the whole story if I don't see it in print. And so the Zines is also, you know, kind of for her too, is that I give her a Zine and it could be 4 or 5 days and she'll contact me and be like, oh my God, I went through the whole Zine and this, and oh, I saw you put this in there. And a lot of times she forgets that I've done these photos months in advance. So I'm like, I did what now? Mm-hmm. What are you talking about? What is what? Mama, what? And then my mom's a HGTV junkie and she's like, oh my God. And she'll take a picture of the picture in the book and then show me on HGTV, because she took a picture of the screen, that I have a duplicate piece. Like, oh, they had this on HGTV. Okay, Mama, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, so the books was her, like, pressuring me, because for her it was, I can see more detail. I can take my time. I don't have to blow it up on my phone. And so the designs kind of came back as a, you know, as a way to make Mama happy. And then, there you go. You know, to do these series that just wasn't working well on Instagram. So, so yeah.
And I feel like it gives you more opportunity to reach different groups of people, because not everybody, just like you said with your mom, she's not on social media. I imagine that there's other people, and I'm not going to say like age group wise, but just other people who are not into social media, but they want this book. You know, they want to be able to see these pictures. They want to be able to get involved with the story that your 1/6 scale world is presenting, but they're not into social media. So it does allow you to be able to reach, you know, different people still using the same platform, and then they're able to know about Nisha K. The legacy continues.
Yeah, it's just another way to kind of put work out there. But also for the Zines, I get to really, I won't say that I don't do it on Instagram, but for the Zines, like I really get to put all of Nisha K in there, right? I get to put all those little tiny details in there that you don't necessarily always see on Instagram, because it's like 1 shot or 2 shots or 3 shots, right? And then you don't always know the bigger story. There's something more powerful than looking at one photo that's talking about a story and then seeing that story in 12 different photos. You know what I mean? All variations of the same story. So yeah.
I fully agree. I would like for us, I got to take that trip down memory lane. I said memory, but memory lane. I want for us to just take that trip through each one of these books, if you don't mind. Because I know you said that you take these pictures in advance, so it's been a little while. But if we can talk about Serendipity. And of course, we have these beautiful pieces. And you guys have to get these books. Are these Zines still available for purchase, or do they have to wait?
No, they're still available.
Still available. how would they do that? Do they DM you?
So I have an Etsy shop. So if you go to the link in my profile, it has a direct link to my Etsy shop.
Okay. And this is that page right here where you talked about being able to describe what your design is about.
Yes.
Of course, your beautiful pictures.
Thank you.
And still more description. So
Yes.
what was the inspiration behind this specific design? Because serendipity, this one is about romanticizing yourself, right? Romancing yourself.
So every year for the calendar, I like to do a whole theme. Once again, at school, that's kind of got me into the habit. And so I wanted to do a self-care design, and it just was coming out very commercial in the way in which we do self-care, you know, the massages, facials. And so I don't know, I was on Instagram and someone talked about, you know, romanticizing your life. And I was like, what the heck is that? So I started doing research and was like, oh, this is really cool. And so the calendar kind of morphed into this more, you know, romanticize your life. Like I said, I'm a romance novel junkie. So this was kind of like right up my alley. I love Hallmark cheesy romance movies. And so I kind of started these little miniature scenes that if you watch enough Hallmark romance movies, you have seen these scenes in various places. Like how many times have you seen her in an art gallery, you know, talking to her crush, or she either works at the art gallery or her friend owns an art gallery. Like, you know, there's always these little scenes that kind of popped up. And so I kind of took that from romance novels and, you know, the romanticize your life kind of lifestyle that's being promoted on TikTok, and just kind of created this whole little series. So it got more from self-care into romanticize, which I have to admit was a lot more fun. Yeah, I love that artist gallery. That's my favorite one. That's my favorite one too.
Yeah. Yes. I'm gonna tell you, my favorite was right here with the skate. The skates.
Yeah.
I love it because they break the boundaries. You know, we're always told skate outside, skate outside. But how many of us, especially as kids, didn't want to skate in the inside of the house?
Yeah. So that was
right there in the kitchen. You're eating. It's all kind of joy and love right there.
That was a nod to my niece, my youngest niece. Well, I just had a niece on Monday, so I'm a brand new aunt again. And so my last niece never skated outside. She always skated in the house, always. And so it was just me laughing at the fact that she would skate to the refrigerator, you know, to get a Capri Sun. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put skates on her in the kitchen. Because that was, you know, what my niece always did. She just skated around her kitchen. And I used to always be like, girl, you could walk. She's like, but I get here faster. You get, what? But, you know, that's the logic of a kid. So I just kind of thought it was kind of funny that, you know, she always skated around the kitchen. So I was like, you know, I probably wouldn't tell an adult to do that because that could probably be a little dangerous and, you know, hip.
It may be a trip to the hospital for us.
A trip to the hospital, doing that in the kitchen. But, you know, I thought that was a little fun.
I love it. Now, in this particular design, you're sharing all different forms and ways that people can express self-love to themselves.
Yes.
Is this stuff that you yourself do or have done?
Yes. Yes. And I think for me, instead of the, you know, the gimmicky way that they tell you to do self-care, you know, always involves money. You know, go get a spa treatment, go take a trip, you know, and there's so many different ways that you can do self-care. I'm trying to teach my sons and my nieces and nephews that, you know, just binge watching your favorite show is a form of self-care, right? Buying yourself, you know, flowers, or, you know, just deciding to experiment in the kitchen with whatever ingredients you have on hand and, you know, cooking, or sitting out on your porch and drinking a glass of wine, or just journaling, you know.
Yes.
You know, serving yourself breakfast in bed. You don't have to be on vacation to do that, you know. Make your own, you know. Even ordering takeout is, you know, a form of self-care because it makes you happy. You know, you get a break. And so I just kind of want people at the same time to kind of put out there, you know, there's different forms of self-care. We all got to kind of take care of each other, because if we don't pour into ourselves, we can't pour into anybody else. Family, friends, coworkers, you know, we can't be there for other people if we don't pour into ourselves. And so with serendipity is kind of that love letter to everyone that, hey, take a break, you know, do something it's just for you. It's not selfish.
No.
It's something we need to do. And even if it's just, creating a diorama or redressing a doll, do something that just makes you happy. And so to me, that's just kind of one of those things that was important to kind of put out there, especially in this day and time when there's so much craziness going on.
Yes, yes, yes. And actually, my question was going to be, what kind of tips would you give to someone who wants to dive into being able to romance their life? But I feel like that, your response right there answered that exactly. So this is the serendipity design.
Uh-huh.
If someone is purchasing this design, do they have to get all three, or would they get them individually?
They would get them individually. So I wanted to make sure everybody kind of relates to a different subject, at a different part of their life. So I didn't want to make it to where they had to go and get all three when they're, really only interested in one particular design. Especially if it speaks to them at the moment. To me, that was more important than, making sure they had the entire collection. There'll be more of these to come. So I just kind of hope people, whatever one relates to them, they kind of pick it up and, you don't necessarily have to collect all of them. So
all of them. Get all of them. In the calendar.
Yes.
Get all of them. No commission off of this. I love your work, and I do. Now, if you notice, I do put mine right back into the plastic because I treat these like these are collector comic books. I used to collect comic books. That's why when you said what your husband said about it being like a graphic novel, I was like, I get it.
Yes.
I put mine right back into the plastic, and when we get done conversating, I'm going to be taking the paper that it was wrapped in and put it right back in. Why? Because I do not want anything happening to my designs. I want them in good condition. And these are beautiful.
With Serendipity, design always has more photos than the calendar. So I typically overshoot for the calendar, and so there's more additional outtakes that end up in Serendipity than it will be because the calendar is, only 12 pages. So there is more photos that you will see. So if anyone ever was like, well, I have the calendar, the book actually has more photos than the calendar.
The calendar.
Yeah.
Awesome. We are about to go to your next design, bookish.
Yes.
Right here.
Yes.
Let you guys kind of get a feel for these beautiful pictures. Again, even if you're saying, I can't really see the photos, that's because it's meant for you to go on her Etsy and purchase this design so you can have it in your hand and see all these beautiful photos and the detail.
Yes. And so this.
Now, what was your inspiration behind this one? What were you about to say?
This one book is unique in that it's all made to move Barbies in this particular book. So there's no Poppy Parker Integrity toy dolls. This one is all my first love. This is all done with Barbie. All the made to move Barbies that I've collected.
And I love that. We had talked before about that because usually your designs and your photos are with Integrity toys.
Yes.
And you do beautiful with them. What would you say was the difference? Because you do have made to move dolls and Integrity dolls. I love them. They're beautiful. I don't mean this in any insulting way, but I do know that they're more articulate rather than made to move. Was it a little bit easier working with the Barbies? Or was it a little bit harder?
So this design was supposed to start out about reading positions, right? All the crazy reading positions as a bookworm that you find yourself into. And so Integrity toy dolls, they're just not going to bend into those particular positions unless I want to break them. And so for me, it started off with, with Barbie, and then it kind of morphed. I got to start taking pictures. It kind of morphed into it, but this story about bookish is more about, me reading when I was younger. And to me, the dolls just felt they had a younger look, more youthful look. And so they just fit the storyline a lot better to me. And so I will say that working with Made to Move is a lot easier than working with Integrity toys. And that's just because I compose them. Though I will say I do not like their hands. Their hands are not quite as detailed, and their feet. So those are the two issues that I have with Made to Move, is that I don't think their hands or feet are as pretty. But it is.
And you don't get the option to pop off the hands nor to put new ones either.
No, dressing them is not easy either. I will say that. And then finding clothes that fit their hips and, different body types
Yes.
was a little more challenging. Or I'm used to one particular, body style. So yeah. Yeah.
That's very, very true, because this doll right here is your curvy girl.
Yes. Yeah.
And then this one is more of a petite girl.
Yes.
So the clothing, as far as just like the ratio of height
Yes.
that's going to be needed for her is going to be totally different than
Yes.
for her. Well, she's a petite baby too. So right here,
Yes.
right
Yes.
here is going to be different compared to your more curvy doll. So
Yes.
I totally get that. What would you say is your inspiration behind this specific Zine bookish?
It was just really talking about how I was one of those people that I wasn't a party person. I had friends and I went out, but if you gave me the choice on a Saturday night as a teenager, I'm going to stay in and read versus going to a party. That was just me. Um, and my family still teases me about that to this day. Oh, remember when we were doing this or X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, I don't remember. Oh yeah, because you were sitting in a corner reading a book, Nisha. That's why you don't remember what we did, right? Or
Yes.
remember that particular incident because you were in a corner reading a book. I was that child that my mom would literally be like, leave the book in a car. You're not allowed to take the book inside, Nisha. It has to stay in the car. And, the most be teenager because my mom wouldn't let me take a book inside. And so, but as you kind of get into adulthood, you don't have the time to read like that, right?
No,
You know,
no, you don't.
I can't read in a car anymore because I'm the one that's driving. I can't, go into the doctor's office and read because 9 out of 10 times the doctor's appointment is about me, right? I'm the one who has to listen, not my mom. So it just kind of became about losing that freedom to read all the time, anywhere, any kind of way. You just don't. I can't read in low light anymore. That used to be my favorite time to read because my eyesight is just like, girl, no. Like, what are you smoking? You better turn a lamp on. You know what I can't read in the bathtub anymore because the ice cold water and my limbs get numb. You know what I mean? So it's not the same type of reading that I enjoyed when I was younger. So it was kind of that love letter to my old self, And if I had to do it again, I would probably go back and cherish it a lot more than what I did. Now I'm lucky if I get to read a book a month, where back then it was one every 3 to 4 days. You know what I mean? Depending on how big the book was. But you got responsibilities in adulthood, and you just don't get to read, or you don't have the focus or the ability to do it as much. So that was just a love letter to the young Nisha that I kind of miss those days, and I took them for granted. I think we all do.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes, I fully agree with you. What would you say are, because we both share a love for books. I just got done this morning telling my husband, I was like, I didn't even get it. People have like their list for what they read in 2023. And I'm like, I don't have a real big list at all. Like audiobooks have to be included. It's just not the same. Now, what would you say are the pros and even the cons of being a bookish type of person?
I think as an adult, your imagination stays intact, right? I can literally smell and feel and hear what's going on in a book, right? I don't need a movie to bring a story to life. I have actually gotten upset with some movies because I'm like, that is not how the character is supposed to sound. Like, that's not how they sound in my head, right? So it's the imagination. It's the being able to be immersed in someone else's world that's not your own. It's just being able to relate to different type of people. Even now as an adult, I'm like, oh, I need to be nicer to that person because I remember reading a character like that, right? And it not necessarily relates, but you're like, okay, that kind of character kind of reminds me of this person. Or even just dealing with scenarios. It's like, oh, I've read this once. Let me see if this works, So to me, it's just, getting to know people, understanding completely different worlds. Yeah, I miss being able to read like that.
Oh, you and me both. What were the favorite books that you would list that you've probably read in the past 6 months or a year? What would you say were your favorite books?
Right now, I'm obsessed with anything by Christina C. Jones. Um,
Okay.
so she does series of books. I love books where I can go see what an old character is doing.
Mm.
I want to know if they got married and had kids, right? I want to know if that romance fizzled out. I want to know if she got a new man in her life. I want to know if he's better than the old man. So Christina C. Jones does really well when she creates 14, 15 series books, and you get to know about what the first character is still doing because they pop up in the 15th book, or their interwoven story is in the 12th book. So I love the fact that I can go back to characters that I absolutely love, and they're no longer dead in reality. They're still living on, and she still, I kind of gives you nuggets about, hey, they got married and they had a set of twins, and you're like, oh, or their marriage is on the rock, and you're like, oh, no, they're my favorite couple. Put them back together. Put them back together. You know, um, or he really was a cheater, and I kind of felt that, But
Mm-hmm.
so I love anything by her. I pretty much have to find the time to read. I'm addicted to her reading. I mean, her writing style. So yeah.
I like that. I like that. What would you say are your top 3 favorite books that you've ever read that were transformational, just life changing? Even if it's just one book, but what would you say are 1 or 3 books that you read that just
The first one would have to be
changed
Wake
everything?
Exhale by Terry McMillan. That was my first adult book, I will say. As a teenager, that was the first me coming out of young adult romance into an adult romance, and just being like, oh, Godsmack, like, wow. Like, it was just, I don't know, that book was just like, oh my God, I want more. And so I kind of crossed over into the adult world and kind of never went back. Um, there's another one, Memoirs of a Geisha. I remember reading it with some friends before we went and saw the movie, and that book was just so, I think I cried through that entire book. It was just so beautifully written, and the story was just so good. The movie definitely did not do its justice at all, but I think I was in my 20s when I read Memoirs of a Geisha, but it was just a really amazing book. And then, oh my God, for my third one, I can't even think of the name of it. I can see the book, but I can't even remember the name of it. I can't even think of the name of it. But yeah, that would have to be the top 2. I may have to try to remember the third one, but yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm definitely gonna have to check out the Memoirs of a Geisha.
Yes,
Now, I did hear that the movie was different than the
yes,
book. Is that
yes,
okay?
yeah, yeah.
Because I do remember hearing, and there was a little bit of an uproar that it was a difference
It
between the book and the
was.
movie. But
It
I
was
think
a
that's
lot.
almost
Yeah, it
expected.
was a lot. But I have to remember at that time things were a little bit more watered down. I think if they redid the movie now, it would be truer to the book. But there was a lot of scenes in there that I think people just wasn't ready for at the time that was in the book. Um, so, Also, I read Joy Luck Club. The book is absolutely amazing too. A complete tearjerker. So
Gotcha.
that was another one that kind of stuck out that I read. Yeah. Yeah, I can't
I
really
love it.
think
I
else. Yeah.
love that. I love that. I love that. So if you guys have not checked out those books, definitely check them out. And if you have, make a comment. Let us know that you read those books before and even your impressions. But just real quick before we go to the next book, which I left that one for last on purpose, the last time. Just wanted to really point attention to all the different positions and places that these dolls are reading. This one's going up the stairs reading. This one is sitting at the sofa on her knees reading. Not even on the sofa herself. Somehow the most uncomfortable positions are
Yes.
comfortable when
Yeah,
you're a reader. And just
my
like you
body.
said, being in the tub while the water
Yeah,
gets cold.
my body is just not gonna allow me to sit in some of those positions and read anymore. The cooking scene was funny because that was a nod from my sons that they used to fuss that I was gonna burn their food because I had a habit of reading while cooking them dinner. As a parent, you kind of got to get it in where you can. So
Yes, you do.
only burned their food like 3 times, only 3 times in history. But I will admit they got McDonald's, so I don't know why they complained.
What?
Uh,
Why?
but
Why complain?
but yes, I had a bad habit of cooking
And I love
while trying to read.
right here. She's reading a comic book, the Black Panther
Yeah.
comic book. She's got DC and Marvel around her. Did you print these yourself?
No, so all of those books were done by different people. I kind of collected books over the years. Being a book reader is like, it's another addiction when you get into miniature books. It's a completely different world. And so no, those I kind of started collecting because my husband is a huge comic book reader. And so I kind of wanted to show that women do read comic books too. It's not just for men. And I started off reading comic books because I had two brothers, and going to the comic book store on Saturday mornings, you either sat in a car or you went in a comic book store. So,
You go in that comic book store. I mean, there's some amazing treasures in there.
Yeah.
The illustration.
Yeah.
Our kids are into comic books. We got them into it.
Yes. Yeah.
But healthy addiction. But yeah, it's awesome. It is very, very awesome. And this one right here, she's brushing her teeth.
Yes, done that. Book propped up on the
reading a book,
so I can brush my teeth and read. Sometimes when you get lost in that story, like, you cannot break it for nothing. Like, you have to know what happened.
What happens next?
Yes, like, I just can't turn away. And so you will put yourself in some of the weirdest positions to keep reading. And that's just a testimony to the writer. Like, you got me so wrapped up in the story, I don't even want to be in reality for even a little bit,
That's
I want to
true.
stay where I'm at. So, yeah.
That's so very, very true. And right here, she's reading upside down.
Yes.
She has her hand on her head while she's sitting at the couch. I can only imagine what she's reading right there. Like,
yes.
Should be a plot twist right there.
Couch,
She was not
couch one was, growing up, my mom didn't allow us to sit on the sofa because she said we never sat on it the right way, right? So my cheater move would be, my elbows would be on the sofa and I would be reading with the book, propped up on the sofa, but I'm actually sitting on the floor. And so that's kind of how I got around her rule of, you can't be on the sofa because you don't never sit on it right. Though to this day, how do you not sit on the sofa right? Like, that doesn't make sense, right? Like, how does a human being not
sit on that edge and you kind of like got the pillow, sagging down a little, like it's gonna mess up the upholstery.
I still tease her, like, how does someone sit on a sofa wrong? Like, really, mama? Just, that doesn't make any sense.
Some things that we say that later on we get older and we're like, I don't know why I said that either.
That's what she'd be like, I don't know why.
I don't know why, but it made sense then. I just didn't want your little stinky butts on the sofa.
Exactly. Just say that. Don't say we ain't sitting right.
There you go.
Yeah.
And right here, of course, she's got her feet kicked up. I love this one. That's where I want to be at.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're supposed to be working and you're reading instead. I work from home. So there
you go.
I won't say that out loud, but there may or may not be times that I am working and reading. So.
There you go. And of course, she is nestled in her little nest right here. I love that. And it gives such a beautiful 70s vibe.
Yeah.
And that's what I get with your photos. Like, there's just like a different era and a different vibe with almost each photo. And this one right here says, I was feeling that 70s vibe all in there.
Yes.
And then this is a picture of...
That's my mom when she was in junior high, I believe. Yeah.
And it's something very, very, very special. If, like for anyone who's ever checked out Nisha K's work, or if this is your first time even, always look in her photos. You are going to find some beautiful treasures, which are her family photos. She just nicely tucks them in there, or you'll tuck in a self-portrait. And I just love those little details.
Thank you.
Well, of course, we're dealing with a petite doll. She's supposed to be cleaning.
Yeah.
She's vacuuming. I'm not going to say supposed to. She's vacuuming, but just
cleaning.
Completely engrossed in this book.
Actually do that at the same time.
You really can.
They vacuum the same position over and over again, but it can be done.
It may be a process. It may take a little bit longer.
But one spot
it will get done
together, but it does get done. I promise.
So once again, this design is available, guys, on her Etsy store.
Yes.
Check it out. And last but not least is this heart throbber right here, Mabel.
Yes.
And I purposely left this one for last for us to talk about, just because of who this sweet lady is right here. Would you like to give us the inspiration about this specific design, Mabel?
So Mabel is my grandmother's name, my mom's mom. And I've been told all my life that I look exactly like her. But she passed away when my oldest son was 2, um, of sickle cell disease complications. And so, in a small town of Seminole, Oklahoma, her trademark was sweet potato pies. She baked them only in November and December, and she would freeze them. You would have them for Easter, but they were only for holidays. And she would make so many of them because that was what she was known for, was her sweet potato pie. She was also extremely, extremely stylish woman. She did not like going to church with anybody else having the same thing that she had on. So and it's probably why I got my love of boutique stores. She only shopped in boutiques. As bougie as that was, she only shopped in boutiques. I still remember my grandma going to church with thigh-high leather boots on. Like, that was like, what? In your 70s, and this woman's got on heeled thigh-high leather boots, right? So, but she was known for her sweet potato pie. And so when she passed, it went to my mom. My mom was the only one that actually was in the kitchen and wrote down her recipe, because she was an old school cook. It was a pinch of this, dash of this. They didn't do measurements, right? It was all about taste, how it's supposed to taste, right?
Yes.
So my mom was the only one who had the forethought to be like, okay, Mom, I'm going to sit here and write down the measurements of this sweet potato pie. And so after she passed, my mom kind of took it over. But I was addicted to sweet potato pie. Even when I was little, I was just addicted to sweet potatoes. I would get in trouble when my grandma was baking, because I would go in there and just want to lick the bowl of sweet potatoes. And she's like, Nisha K, I know you've been in here drinking the sweet potato juice. Stop. But I was just addicted to sweet potatoes. So after a while, I kind of started baking. And I don't want to give the whole story, but I took over baking sweet potato pies. So now I'm third generation who bakes sweet potato pies. I still follow my grandma's recipe. It's still made the same way that she made it, the same ingredients, cooked the same exact way. I will say I finally beat her record. So her record was 28 pies in a baking season, which is November to January, right?
Okay.
And so I topped out at 38 sweet potato pies. So I did finally break her record of baking the most sweet potato pies during a session. And none of these pies are sold to anybody. They're baked for family and friends. So, that was kind of what she did. That was her love language. And so I kind of kept up that tradition of hers as well. So this whole story takes you from the beginning of my personal journey of baking sweet potato pie, kind of how it starts. And then because I have followers that's all over the world, I put in a sweet potato pie recipe in case you want to make your own, because not everybody has necessarily heard of sweet potato pie. And so I wanted them to be able to, if they wanted to, after they read the story, they kind of bake their own sweet potato pie. But this one was more of a personal story of, me, my mom, and my grandma. And throughout the book, in the dioramas, you'll see pictures of my mom and my grandma.
Yes.
And you'll also see nods, and that was mainly put for my family, but you'll see nods to my grandma. She loved Pepsi. She loved what is the candy bar that's in there? Goodness gracious. It's the coconut.
Almond Joy.
Almond Joy. I'm not an Almond Joy, but she loved Almond Joy. She loved ducks with the blue bows. If anybody can remember those, the white ducks with the blue bows. She had them all over her kitchen. She loved butterflies, which is actually on her tombstone, and a lot of my cousins have butterfly tattoos. She was also known for her rose garden. She had a beautiful rose garden that was photographed and every year. And then you'll also see pictures of her throughout various stages of her life in the book as well. And so it's really just a nod to the woman that she was. Unfortunately, she didn't get to live to see me do what I do, but she was with me at the beginning, and she's one of those that always encouraged me to collect. When I started collecting Barbies, she either bought them for me, she would send me money to buy them, she would tell me that there was a new one that was out. So she really supported me collecting dolls. So yeah. So
would you say that this is a piece that she would be proud of you for?
She would. I think she really would. So when I went home for Thanksgiving, I ended up gifting my family members that particular book. But it was my mom. After Thanksgiving, my mom hosts Thanksgiving every year. So it was probably like a week later, she called me just boohoo crying. I was like, "What is wrong with you?" And she's like, "I just read through the book and it just made me cry." My mom is, throughout it. And, it's also for future generations to kind of know the type of woman, the amazing woman, that she was. And she was really, really important to me. My grandma talked every day. Every Sunday was our day, regardless of where I was in the world. I called her every Sunday. And the Sunday I was getting ready to test for staff because I was in the military in Alaska. And so I told her, I said, "Grandma, I'm not going to be able to call you next Sunday because I have to study. I'm testing to make rank on Monday." And she goes, "Oh, baby, you're going to make it. I believe in you. I love you. I'm so proud of you. I'm praying for you." And she just kept, this positive, what's it called? And so I woke up. So the following week, I studied all day. And I woke up to my husband waking me up at 4:00 in the morning, the day I was supposed to test, to tell me that my grandmother had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, I missed the last Sunday, but it was such a beautiful, positive conversation that I had with her before, that I've kind of, over time forgiven myself. But, she knew that I loved her and I knew that I was loved, and that she was proud of me. But yeah, I think she would get a huge kick out of this, of the miniatures and how detailed it is. So yeah, I think she would definitely get a kick out of this. So yeah.
I believe that it's always, it's always difficult to hash up and talk about our last conversations
Yeah.
with our loved ones.
Yeah.
One, it brings back so many different memories, and your feelings are still very, very real as they were when that happened. And so one of my questions would be, when we talk about bereavement, did you feel that while doing this piece that you experienced healing? Was this
It was.
something that was therapeutic for you?
It was. Every year when I bake sweet potato pies, I kind of feel her, guiding me, like, "Okay, that's enough sugar. Stop adding sugar, Nisha." And then, I kind of play her favorite music. I have her like favorite wooden spoon. I have an apron of hers. I have her baking pie shells or whatever. So she's still very much there. I kind of recall the stories that we talked about on our Sunday chats. So yeah, it was, this project was really healing. It was done with so much love. It took me, and I think that's the other thing people don't realize. So the kitchen alone took me 12 days to create.
How long does it generally take you for preparing a kitchen?
Probably like 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
This one took
Wow.
12 days. That shelf is up there, and then everything had to be individually stuck because every time I moved anything in that space, everything would fall. So I had to stick down every single thing. And then it took me months to source things that was very particular to her, to her story. So everything in there had to relate to her story. The colors, her favorite color was blue. She had a lot of red dishes. The kitchen is not hers. I still wanted it to be very modern, but it just took me a long time. And then every part of that kitchen is a working kitchen. So the cabinets are filled, the drawers are filled. Like, you open up a drawer, there's utensils in there. There's baking pan. The refrigerator was fully stocked. And then it also goes to show you how far 1/6 scale miniatures have come, that I'm even able to create something like this at this point in time. Because years ago, I wouldn't have been able to actually do this project. And then, SI Scale did all the walls, so me being able to take a wall down to shoot between each room. That was the other thing, is setting this up in a 2-room diorama where I can actually get as many shots as I did. I think I ended up doing close to 800 shots of this particular diorama. And I want to say it's literally maybe 50 or more photos in this book alone of just all the different shots. So it took me, I want to say it took me 7 days to shoot the entire setup. Um, and then edit. So it was like 7 days. So yeah, it was 12 days of like, okay, this isn't working. I can't shoot this because I can't see her when she opens up the oven. You know, all of those things kind of take place. Like, okay, I can't shoot this. You know, I got to move this around because I want you to see the inside of the fridge, or, you know, I want to see the oven when she opens it, and I got to move this, or I want to be able to see down the hallway, or when I see her in the living room. So, you know, all of these shots have to be planned out and thought out, and then I have to construct it to where I can easily shoot without taking everything apart. You know what I mean? So it's probably the biggest project that I've done. Not the most expensive, but it's the biggest, most detailed diorama and project that I've done today.
So. And I imagine probably the most, probably the one that felt like the most gut wrenching as far as
it was. This one, presenting it to my family was really scary. It's different when you do it to your followers because they don't have that background necessarily, but presenting it to my family was really scared. Just because everyone has different memories of a person, right?
Sure.
So no, everyone's not going to relate to the same thing or remember things the same way. But I constantly had to remind them that this was my perspective and this was my relationship with my grandma. It may not necessarily been theirs, but this was the relationship that I had with her. And that's the only perspective I can come with, right? That's the only viewpoint I can give you is the one that I had her. And so, you know, it's kind of a love letter to my grandma. But yeah, there was a lot of planning and thought and a lot of conversations with my mom. Like, hey, do you remember her favorite candy? Or what else did she like? You know, and so my mom, in essence, kind of had to take this journey with me, you know, because I'm also relying on her as her daughter to kind of give me some of that knowledge I didn't necessarily remember, you know. And then even having to call my aunts and being like, hey, do you remember, did she watch television? Oh, she didn't watch TV. Okay, what did she do? And, you know, it was like all of these different types of things. And then finding all these photos, you know, I had to get from other family members, scan them. I cleaned them all up, edit them myself in order, you know, to put them into the book. So I also learned how to clean up old photos in the process of doing this. So yeah, I have another one that's coming up in May that's for my grandpa that's probably more time consuming than this one is. So far it has been anyway. So
oh goodness. And you're going through that same process that you did with this one?
Yes. Yeah, just trying to find all of these pictures that kind of add and miniaturize. And yeah, so this one it was a labor of love, but it was well worth it. But yeah, this one. And I think sometimes when people see my work on Instagram, I don't think they necessarily realize how much thought and time goes into these. And then the designs are even more, right? Because if someone's going to pay the money, I want to give you as much as I can. But also, I want you to come and fully immerse yourself in my world, right? I want you to be able to walk around in my head and be like, oh, okay, this makes sense now. You know, it's not just a picture. You know, she's actually telling this story. And so, yeah. So.
Well, this is beautiful work. And we're so very, very thankful in our doll community for the work that you give and the positive storytelling that you do through your content and how you present yourself and your photos and your dolls is just, you know, definitely one of a kind work. And I'm pretty sure everyone on here would agree with me. If you don't think you're on the wrong live, you may want to go ahead and get off because that's what I believe and that's what I know. And this is just phenomenal. And I agree with you. I believe this is something that your grandmother would definitely be so very proud of you for doing. I see the butterfly right there.
I will have to also say that the doll that has the TWA, the little short teeny afro, later on in life, that's how my grandma cut her hair. And before she passed, I had the same hairstyle. So we all had the same hairstyle as you, ma'am, that you're rocking now. And so that was that was one of the things that my mom asked, is that when she chose the doll, was she chose that one because at the time when my grandmother passed away, that was how my hair looked, and that's how my grandma's hair looked too. And so that was important for her to have that in there. But yeah, so you'll see all the little tiny little nods to her and to me and to my mom.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. This hairstyle has a whole story to it, even dating back to, I think 2011 or something of that nature.
Yeah.
So I enjoy being able to see dolls
Yes,
rocking all
right?
different kinds of textures and
Yes.
hairstyles because it's our hair. We can, do whatever we want and enjoy it, as long as our scalp is allowing us to, and we don't have
Yes.
anything going on, we should be able to enjoy our dolls and we enjoy our hair. And I love that you present that with your dolls because all of your dolls have different hairstyles and they're all rocking it. But when you put that context to it, as far as you having that hairstyle and your grandmother having that hairstyle, once again, it just adds to the intimacy of the story that you're presenting here. So really, 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 really enjoy this piece. I guess we're going to go to any questions that anyone has. I did see a question much earlier, and it was from Dollhouse Fixer Upper. She stated, Nisha, I'd love to hear about your ATCs and how you came to know about them. I'm not totally certain what ATC is,
Yeah,
though.
so ATCs are artist trading cards or
Okay.
artist or they call them, so it's ATCs or ACEOs, which is, oh my god, artist cards. I can't even remember what the EO part is. So anyway, they are in essence wallet size photos of art, right? And so in you got to remember that our community is considered a niche community, right? Not everyone is into dolls, miniatures, and dioramas, right? So within the art community, there's niche, art communities. And so there's a whole group of artists that they either don't have the room, the supplies, or they're, like you, they use these miniature formats to get an idea out to see if it's actually going to work before they do it on a large scale piece,
Yes.
right? And so they created artist trading cards, which they're anywhere from paintings to illustrations. They can be reproductions of bigger pieces of work. But I was at a craft fair, and this is before dioramas became what they are now, and someone was selling them. And I've always been drawn to art, especially abstract art. And so I bought one, and I just had them, in a box, and they had told me what ATCs. And so I went on Etsy and bought some. I went on eBay and bought some, but they were just in a box for years, right? I didn't really do anything with them. And so I started doing more and more dioramas, and I was like, wait, they actually work perfectly as art in the 1/6 scale world, right? They're not poster size, they're not oversized, but they're like the perfect size, which in essence, they're a wallet size print, right? And so I was like, oh, now I have a reason to buy more of these ATCs, right? But I also can diversify the art that's I'm using in my dioramas and actually show off these amazing uh, photos. And so some of them I actually have contacted me like, hey, this is how I used it. And they were shocked. Like, I didn't even realize you could use this, in the miniature world. In 1/12 world is like the size of a poster,
Yeah.
I think, believe. And so a lot of them, didn't create for the miniature market. It just happened to be one that I saw and didn't just kind of use. And now I have a whole box of ACOs. I still actively collect them by different artists. A lot of the times, some of my favorite artists I can't afford, or I don't have the wall space in my own house to have their art, but I can put it in my, in my miniatures, and I can still support them
Yeah.
in the way that I want to. And so, I have some that are by, very popular artists, and then I have some that's just, everyday artists that's, trying to make a buck. Also, they're really reasonable. I mean, I can get miniature paintings for like $10, $12, and a reproduction can be $5, but on eBay they go anywhere from like $5 to 25. I think the most that I've paid was like 35, and that was for a a well-known artist that I just actually love their work, and they did a whole series, and they were limited edition, and so I ended up being able to get one, and I use it in my, in my diorama. So it's just another way for me to kind of support artists, and another form of creativity. And then these are all the little things that I've just kind of learned of doing this for so long. Like, oh, this works. I think what's happening now with the newer generation, and there's nothing wrong with it, is that there's so much one set scale miniatures on the market now that it's very easy to be like, if it doesn't say 1/6 scale, I can't use it, right?
True.
But in our own houses, we have things that are small, we have things that are oversized. At least I know I do. I have pictures that are small, I have pictures that are, I have artwork that's small, artwork that's what's it go. And so when I started, though, there was no 1/6 scale really world that was being done. It was built, sizes were kind of all over the place. You kind of had to figure out on, you had to use ornaments, you kind of had to go to the scrapbooking community, you had to go to the, like, you had to find it. There wasn't what it is on the market now, which I'm very thankful what's on the market now. It makes it easier, but at that time it wasn't. And so a lot of this I kind of had to figure it out for myself, and then be like, well, and then after a while it's just like, there's no rules, I'm just gonna do what I want to do. You know what I mean? I use anywhere all the way up to a 5x7 photo in my dioramas because I want oversized art. Like, if that's what I want, then I'm not going to hear, and I want other people to be the same way. There's no rules in dioramas. It's still the Wild Wild West. Do what you want to do, create how you want to create, use what you want to. But that was really how I kind of got into that, was going to, it was Renegade in Oklahoma art, and they were like, oh, it's ATCs. And I remember I bought like 4 of them by this amazing artist. I hope he's well. And he actually, explained to me what it was. And then I remember going around to all these different booths and like buying up these, like ATCs, and then Etsy came out and eBay came out, and, buying even more of them. Or even when I go to art shows now, I look for them to kind of add to my collection. So yeah.
See, like for me, and I believe that fully answered the question. I got a lot of information that I didn't have previously. I agree with you when you say it's like the wild, wild west, just being able to do what you want to do, enjoying your own processes as you develop as an artist, in this 1/6 scale realm or 1/12, whichever one that you're in. I believe that we have to remember our inner child when we're playing, however which way that we do. Like whatever your specific niche is, whatever your hobby is, remembering that inner child, because your inner child didn't really go over Susie's house and Emily's house and look at how they created a scene and then go home and try to do it. You created your own scene. And in fact, when you went over Susie's house or Emily's house, you were telling them how you wanted it set up and what this room is and this and that. So, and then you guys came together and created, what the living room was like or the dining room was like, and then you played. And I think that we have to remember that. And it's so easy because there's such beautiful work here on Instagram. Such beautiful work that you go, I want mine to look like that. I want to do my photo like this. I want to do this. And then you totally neglect the beauty of what you have. Whatever you have, whichever style you have, however which way that you decorated the inside of your set, that's all you. And that's what makes it beautiful. And so I think it's so important that, as much as we are inspired by amazing artists such as yourself, and I am totally inspired by you, don't neglect the beauty of who you are as an artist. Do your thing. Do it the way that you want. That's what helps you to stand out with your artwork.
And for me, I love, and this is one of the subjects that's kind of touchy. So if you know me, this is not how I am, but I'm an introvert, right? So I'm not a people person. But, the new generations come to me, in my DMs, and they'll ask me questions like, hey, and my first thing is like, send me a picture. What kind of room are you trying to do? And then, I go to overwhelm them when I'm like, oh, here's that chair and here's this and this, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And it's really, they don't they don't necessarily know the search terms. I've been doing this for so long that, you know, I look for miniatures in the most weird places. Action figure world has it going on. I will tell everybody that. I don't know why the action figure guys get way better miniatures than we doll collectors do, but they do. I live in their world.
They do.
That's where the subway came from. Like, that was created for action figures. It was not meant for dolls. But guess what? Action figures are 13 inches, which means that if it works for them, it works for me. So I buy a lot of stuff in the action figure world. And then, you know, you kind of make it, you know, you kind of zhuzh it up a little bit, because some of it's got to be painted, because you're like, I don't want tractor trailer, you know, stuff, look designs, you know, spray paint.
They just came back from a military tour. Yeah.
Right. I don't need that. But I like the piece that has good bones. You know, that's how you got to think of it. It's got good bones. So, you know, I'm going to make this work. And so it's really just searching. I spend hours a week. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say how many hours I spend searching for miniatures and how much my eBay cart and my Etsy cart has. But yeah,
I get it. I'm like, one day, if we don't hit the jackpot for lottery, one day some extremely wealthy person is going to be like, everything you have in your Amazon and in your eBay, we're going to just charge it right now. Like, you have to keep it in the cart. It's going to happen.
Woman, seriously? I have had, I don't know how many times on my eBay card is like, okay, you cannot put anything else in here. Like, you hit your max, which I didn't even know it had a max. You hit your max, you're done, right? But I get a lot that comes in, like, oh, well, you know, my dioramas have to look like yours. No, they don't. I'm bougie. I'm just gonna tell you, I'm bougie. You ain't gotta be bougie. I love dioramas, period. I follow everybody that has a diorama. I love dioramas. You ain't gotta be bougie. Your miniatures does not have to be venture miniatures. It does not have to be replicas of modern. It's whatever that you want to do, you know, whatever you want your space to look like. To me, as a well-designed space, I could care less about what type of miniatures that you use. There's so many miniatures and different styles of miniatures is out now. It's pretty much for everybody. But my particular style, that is my particular style. I am really bougie when it comes to my miniatures, but I'm the one who's willing to pay for that, right? I do not expect everybody else to buy what I buy, or to do what I do.
It's literally your style, so it comes to you naturally. It comes to you naturally. So I feel that if I'll use myself as an example, if I try to create my sets to replicate the work that you do and the details that you have, I'm gonna spend extra energy trying to think the way that you do, or look at her photo and do it exactly like, versus just using some nice flow of energy for what I know how to do and what's in my lane. I love like hobo bohemian looks and vintage, and that's where I'm at, you know, like that's my thing. So we each have to do what we're naturally inclined to. Doesn't mean you can't go beyond that and become more.
Like looking at my own dioramas at all. I don't. It's painful because all I see is what I do wrong. In my eyes, the only thing that I do when I look at my photography and my dioramas is what I do wrong. I can do better. So
I get it.
I like looking at other people's because I don't have that guilt. I'd be like, oh my God, I love the way she used that lamp. Oh, she used that fly. Oh, wait, I have that chair. I never thought about using it away. That is so good. But in my mind, it's just like, oh, this is amazing. And in my photos, I'm like, oh, Nisha, why did you do that? Did you see her arm in that doll? I'm not critical of other people because to me, I'm just like, there's another diorama. And I'm just immersed in their world. And oh my God, they made this. They're so talented because I could not do that. Because I don't make any of my stuff at all. There's some out there to do kits. I love y'all. But I have been banned from kits because my sister-in-law and my husband told me not to bring no more kits home. Because they're the ones who have to make them, not me. The last time I made a kit, let's not. We don't want to discuss that. So, it has to be ready-made for me and just take spray paint and that's it. And even that, sometimes my mom does that for me. Like I'm not a crafty person. So when I see that someone's made something, like, oh my God, like you're amazing. made all of that? Like, girl, and you designed the room and you photographed it? Like, okay, just bravo. Just bravo.
I get it.
I don't have the talents or the patience to do all three, right? So for me, as like, I want more and more people to come into this world, because that means I get to see more and more dioramas, right? I just went on Pinterest and found like a whole nother subset of dioramas on Flickr. And now I've like gotten addicted back to Flickr because these people aren't on Instagram.
Oh.
And it's like, oh my God, I'm missing a whole nother world of dioramas because I'm just on Instagram. And I just like, look, it's not, to take from their stuff. It's just like walking into somebody else's house and like, oh, I never thought about putting my TV on that wall, or I never thought about that plan, or I never thought about using that shade of orange, in my living room, my fridge. It's
motivating. It gets those juices going. Like it takes you to a whole different level by being able to see other people's work and
so it goes back
to your style.
People, and this has been the past couple months, is you're a gatekeeper. I'm not trying to be, but do you really want to be in my world? Because I promise you, it's not easy and it's not cheap. Like, do you really, really want me to bring you into the Nisha K world? Like, I'm trying to save you. I promise you.
A rabbit hole, huh?
It's a rabbit to save you some money, and you ain't listening to a sister. Because trust me, if I had this to do over, I wouldn't be doing this. God, I mean, I probably could have bought several houses with the money that I invested in this collection. But
got the money off.
But it also goes to, if you slide into my DMs and ask me a question, we gonna talk, to the point where some people just ghost me because they're like, okay, I'm tired. Because she didn't gave me like 6 different websites and like, I'm done. I'm tired. Like, oh my God, like I can't buy all of this. And I get it because I get excited about it, right? So it's not necessarily me being a gatekeeper in that I don't want anybody to have what I want. Sometimes it's just I'm trying to save you from going down this rabbit hole that I didn't fell in and I can't get back out of. And then other times it's just like, whew, all right. And I always ask them like, are you ready? You really want this? Yeah. And I always get, yes, I do. Okay. All right.
Here you go.
And then we 36 DMs in and they're like, okay, can you please stop? No, sis. You said you wanted this. I'm about to give all of this to you. All of this to you. Oh, let me add on to that. Oh, did you know this existed? Okay, stop. Because once your eyes are open, right, you can't stop. You're like, there's action figure worlds, there's 1/6 world, there's 1/4 world that actually works in 1/6 scale world, there's 1/12 scale that works in 1/6 scale, right? So they're like, no, I didn't. This is not.
Yeah,
I just want to know
magical.
I just want to know where you got the chair from. I didn't ask for all of this. But if I give you the chair, I got to give you the table, and then maybe you want a lamp, and then maybe you want a plant, and then maybe you want an ATC, and then maybe you want a bed, and then maybe you want a diorama to put that in. Now you want.
Just trying to hook him up. That's all. I just trying to give him a full.
Now we got miniatures that we got to layer into this. Right now, you need blankets. Now you need pillows. Now you need rugs. You need art. You need sculptures. You need pottery. You need glass. There you go. And they're like, I didn't, sis. I didn't.
I just wanted the chair.
Right.
Well, I'm going to tell you somebody at my.dolish.world. She said you were definitely kind and informative to me in the DM. So you got somebody who had a very positive interaction. They were enjoying the information that you gave.
I'm going to spill, but you also understand that if you slide into my DMs and you ask me privately, I may not tell you the price. I'm going to lead you to where it is. Now, I may pay that price. I may not have, right? That's only between me and my credit card. Then also though, you have to understand that I have publicly helped people and then publicly shamed for the amount of money that I choose to spend on my collection, right? In the past, I have been belittled and ashamed for what I choose to put into this hobby. So for me, it's more, I'm not going to share it publicly all the time because some people take that information and kind of use it to bring negativity.
Yeah.
So if we've been having, if we've had a conversation and you slide in and be like, girl, where you get them chairs from? Oh, I'm going right here. What else you need to know, babe? What are you doing? What kind of room are we creating? Oh, let me see an inspo. Oh, okay. Let me, somebody else sells that table. What? Yeah, they do. Let me go ahead and slide that to you. That's the kind of person that I am. So if you slide into it, but please be for real though. Like, let's not waste my time. Because honestly, I could be looking for miniatures for myself. But there is miniature, that's how I feel. But there is miniatures that I find that I'm like, oh, that's really cool. It's just not my particular style. It doesn't really do anything for me. But, I've had people come and ask me the weirdest, like, I'm really trying to find this in 1/6 scale. Oh, I got you. How did you even know that existed? Well, I was looking for something else. And this popped up, right? I had a friend that was like, hey, I'm trying to look for a stripper pole. Seriously, we got on the topic. She's like, oh, I want to do a strip club. Oh, boo, I got you. There's a 1/6 scale stripper pole. You lying. No, I'm not. Let me send it to you. Oh, my God, are you serious? Yeah, it's in the action figure world. You know what I mean? So it's
I didn't even know it was action figure world. I've seen people with the strip club on their, in their stories and their posts, but I didn't know it was action figure. Okay.
Some action figures. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Cause come on. What are y'all? What?
Very, very spicy storylines. I always say, all the storylines matter. Anyone can write. I enjoy it.
But I must be missing that Instagram diorama world because I have yet to run into it. But sometimes I'll be seeing the miniatures and I'm like, what dioramas are we creating? And why y'all ain't sharing publicly? Because I want to know how you work this into a diorama. Because I can't. This ain't up my world, but I want to know how you use this, right?
I know. I try to understand with the pole. I've seen some people, and they are able to have some very talented dolls stay on the pole in certain positions. I'm like, wow. It's like your doll really did get into this. Like, she was motivated.
In my world, when I'm like, how did they get her to stand? How did they flip her? How did the money
falling off?
I want to know the magic behind the diorama, but I don't want to ask that because, people would be like, why? How did you get the money to stay up like that? Every now and then I will,
DM us. Whoever has these dioramas, tell me, RK, how did you get that to happen? Because I don't know.
How did you get that to happen? Because the money just stayed up in the air. Like, I need to know, how did you get
they threw it in it quick.
How did you get that IT doll to get into that position? Because I can't do that,
I agree.
And then you have to back away and snap the photo because my girls don't listen. They be falling and doing splits and knocking stuff over. Like, they don't listen very well at all. Sometimes I be like, man, can I just take it all out? Because y'all done messed up my room. Y'all just messed up my room. So, I'm sorry. We got to the spicy side of dioramas. That's funny.
There are some very spicy storylines. And I'm telling you, for the ones I have read, I'm like, I'm here for it.
But for someone who came into the diorama world and was rejected because I delved into the world of modern miniatures, right? The fact that we have now evolved to where we have spicy dioramas, I love it. Like, bring it on. Like, I love this. I love the fact that it is morphed into this. Like, bring it on. But please share because I don't know where these accounts are. They must be hiding from me because I haven't been able to find them. But
I do. But see, I find it because I'm usually looking for stories.
Oh.
So I'll find some that have like a storyline that's attached to it. But I will admit, I am a person who I don't want you just throwing sexual content or spiciness in just for the sake of shock value. That's not where I'm at. I like it to have a flow. And I know one of the accounts that I follow, there is a stripper, and I can't figure out if she's part owner of the club or what, but I think that she's just at the club, and it just elaborates on her story and no captions. It just has a few hashtags, no captions at all. Okay, you don't have to read anything. It's just complete visual storyline.
And that's what I mean by I want people to be inspired by me, but I want you to do your own thing because I want to know your story. I want to know how you think and how you create and I want to know how you use, the different placement miniature. I mean, most of my inspiration is taken from real life. I, scour Pinterest all the time and be like, how to do room, because I'm not an interior designer. So,
You wouldn't know that though, because you
well,
you wouldn't know it because that's just like your natural ability.
It's me going to Pinterest and like, I want this room in my house, but I can't afford to knock down walls and do that. So I'm gonna do this in miniature, and I'm gonna try to recreate this room. But then what happens is that, or at least this is my brain, I can't recreate it exactly like it because then your own style creeps in, right? And you start moving stuff, and the next thing you know, it's like it has the bones of that room, but it's kind of its own, space. So for me, I use inspiration now to be like, oh, I haven't used this fireplace in a different way. What is a different type of way I could style this into a space to make this make sense? And then I let it kind of marinate for a while, and then the story comes to it. Dolls on the Scene, I think I'm saying that right. She did a question a couple of weeks ago, like, how do you come up with content? And I wrote that, a lot of my content is done months in advance. So, you're just now seeing content in photographs that I did back in October. But for me, it's the room, the doll, the story, all has to be there. I no longer do just diorama spaces. It's just a room, right? It has to tell a story.
Yeah.
So my content is already written for me. And so I actually shoot according to the story, right? Used to, I would shoot, you get all the details of the room. I don't do that anymore because it's about the story that I'm trying to tell you, right? And all the miniatures is kind of layered into the tell that, complete story to either jog your memory or, make you remember something. I remember last year I did one about making muffins, right? And I had somebody reach out to me, and it kind of unlocked a memory that they had from childhood that they forgot of making muffins with their mom, right? And so it's those kind of things that to me means the most, is that it's relatable, or that it pulled a memory from someone of their childhood that they completely forgot about, or it just causes a debate. The one of, when you're banned from cooking in families because you put kale in the black eyed peas, like, now that may be good, but don't do that on New Year's Eve. Like,
I think, was that a Thanksgiving one? I think that was Thanksgiving.
We're not gonna try nothing new, and I had, but it's all in good love. And there's some people that was like, well, why not? And, then there's others like, yeah, you don't, not before a major meal. Like, did you get permission by the auntie committee to bring this? Because no. And I will have to say that's based off a true story, and they still are not allowed to cook. And it was a hot mess. Like, it was a hot mess. Like, it didn't smell good or look good. It just, I don't. And the person didn't cook anyway, so I don't know why they volunteered to do that particular. It was, I don't know. You just, no.
Well, we do know that it's important to get permission. At least let people know ahead of time what you're gonna be bringing.
Cooking it before to see if it turns out well. Like, do a practice.
Well, TikTok and Instagram, it gives us the courage to try new dishes.
Sometimes, because that was just.
And we just feel like because they did it on there that we can do it here. And some dishes you may want to test it first.
Like, did you follow the video closely when you cooked this? Because
a lot of those videos, though, they don't really give you the information ahead of time, or they won't tell you like how much. It just kind of shows them tossing it all together and making it work.
I'm like, I think you missed several steps when you try to do this one. This was just a big no. Just a big no. But and yes, the family member knew I was gonna, post that in a Instagram post, and they thought it was kind of funny. I never say names, but it is funny when my family will contact me and be like, "Girl, really? Now you knew I was gonna tell that story. Like, that was funny." That was relatable. You knew. I didn't say your name. I tagged your account, but you come on now. You knew I wasn't not gonna turn that. But they love it because they're like, oh my God, whatever antic I did made it into a diorama. It lives on.
See, that's the beauty of what we do with our photos. We do have one last question that someone had asked, and it's in relation to posting our photos, posting our experiences and our content. Peppa, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, Clarissa. Papo de Clarissa asks a question for Nisha. Do you think Instagram is still the best online platform to portray photos?
I do. I do think it is. It's just not as easy to find your community like it used to be. Now it's like it's that old way of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, right? I had someone not that long ago that was like, "Oh my God, I just found your account. Where have you been? Like, how did I not know that you existed?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I stay in my own little bubble in Instagram." But then, they kind of followed up with, something, and I had explained it. I was like, "No, I've been here for like 8 years or something like that, right? Like, no, I've been here." So I think now it's just harder to find it. I still think it's the best place to put it out there. I use Instagram as a way to just try out content and see if it works, right? I don't take it too seriously. For me, every diorama that I put out is a training for doing better, right?
Yeah.
Let me try out this content. Let me try out this particular diorama and see if this works. Let me see if this, because for me, it all benefits my fine art photography, because now I know what my audience relates to, right? What they do and what they don't. Do they want to see, those pictures with, miniature animals do it for them, or it doesn't. They, more food. Do they relate to these stories? Okay, that didn't relate. Even when I don't get high views, it still doesn't really deter me, because I still got, a little piece of my story out there. But yes, I would say for the doll community, Instagram is still really, really strong. Flickr used to be like the visible point. It's not like it is anymore. It's still there, but it's not as strong as Instagram. So if you're looking for a community and sharing photos, and
Yes.
especially in the doll community, yes, I would have to say Instagram is probably the biggest, because we don't have blogs like we used to, and we definitely don't have doll forums anymore. Instagram and Flickr kind of replaced that, in Facebook groups, right? Some people will say Facebook groups. I don't really do Facebook groups anymore. They just didn't fit very
Do you
well.
do the threads? Do you do the Instagram threads?
I'm trying, but my brain, I'm so weird and goofy and silly that sometimes I'd be like, do they really want to know what I'm thinking? Oh.
I'm trying
So
to figure. I don't know if this is something that's supposed to blow up as big as Instagram and TikTok. Is it just a place where I'm posting my thoughts, or am I posting my photos and my thoughts? I'm trying to figure it out.
So on Threads, I've decided that I'm just gonna write all the random thoughts that I have in regards to dioramas and dolls. And if you relate, you do. If you don't, you don't. Right? Because a lot of it is just complete randomness.
Yeah.
That I can't really say on Instagram. I will say that next month I'm starting a blog. It is just because. It is just because, yeah. So I do want to share, but I feel like on Instagram, um, does it make it easy to share? Like, I want to be able to post a link directly to the item that I'm talking about, and if it sells out, then I don't have anybody coming back going, "Hey, I need you to find it again." Because you got to understand, when one person asks me something on Instagram publicly, 9 out of 10 times I've had 24 or 36 other people ask me the same questions, right? And my Instagram page, I want it to be about my dioramas and not become a shopping home network.
I get it.
You know what I mean? I want to come there for the photos, not because I'm telling you where to buy all this stuff at, right? But on the blog, I kind of want it to be, I wanted to be able to talk about why I do what I do, because I don't think I really get that out very well on Instagram. Why I do what I do, the background, the behind the scenes, and maybe it'll help someone, like, watching me do the ugly side of creating dioramas where, you sit with a room half completed for 3 days because the concept just doesn't work, right? I want to be able to bring people on and be like, hey, I tried, working this space 3 times, 3 different ways, and it's just not working. And just having to give up, just doing your own thing, or watching it start out one way and kind of morph. And then just giving the background of like, why did I create this room, or the time that it goes into it. I had someone ask me like, oh, you need to be posting more than twice a week. Well, sweetheart, I can't do that because it takes me anywhere from 4 to 5 hours to create one diorama. I can't give you.
And you still have a life outside of that.
I can't give you more than 2. I used to, and it was detrimental to my personal life. And that's not something I would do anymore. So I give you 2 a week. They're the best damn 2 I can give you, but I can't really do. It's just a lot of time, and then the takedown, the setting up, and I have a what's it called with my husband that my dioramas stay in my studio unless I'm working on a project, right? And then they morph to other places in my house. But it is kind of funny when your plumber comes to work on something and there's like a diorama spread out on the kitchen table, in a bedroom, and they're like, what the heck is going on? And so I try to keep it all conformed, but there's so many moving pieces, and the time it takes to edit and to create everything. And then, like I said, I do this in months because as creatives, there's times where we just don't feel creative.
That's true.
I need time to read or to relax, or I'm going out of town and I don't have time to post. So I do everything in batches. That's just how my creative brain works. So right now, I started shooting last week, and I think I shot 8 different dioramas that you won't see until March or April, because I do everything in advance. So I'm really sorry for people that ask me to do their tagged post. If the reason I don't participate is because I've shot content like 4 months in advance, and I didn't know your party theme was. So I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not that I don't want to participate. It's that either my table is clear for a particular reason, I'm going out of town, or just whatever's going on in life, and that I just didn't shoot. So it's not out of spite. It's just my content has been done. But yeah, I mean, right now I'm creating content for June. My Valentine's Day content has been done. It was done in November, and then I take months off. So I haven't shot since the beginning of November. So I started last week, and before that I hadn't picked my camera up since before November. I wanted to enjoy the holidays, but I still want to be with my online, Instagram family. So when it comes to photos, though, I think to answer that person's question, when it comes to content, I think you need to post in what you're comfortable with. And I don't think you should allow your followers or anybody else to make you post more than what you do, right? I've seen so many amazing creatives get burnt out, and they take a break and they never come back, right? And now I'm missing, and we've lost as a community their voice in the community, and it's because they was just so burnt out creatively and they didn't take a break. So a lot of us ain't making money from this, right? So why are we posting 6, 7, 8 times a week? Unless you have the time to do that and you want to, then that's fine. I applaud you. But find what works for you. And if your followers are there for you, then they'll stick around.
That's true. That's true. Actually, I had a conversation with one of my doll sisters, who's my soul sis, and we talk, on a regular basis about our dolls, our storyline, life, all that kind of stuff. And we were just talking about the importance of the pause.
Yeah.
That you need to take that pause in life. Really get yourself into a place where you can process what's going on the left, what's going on the right. And I know I switched those around, but you got to process life, and you want to be able to enjoy your hobby. Your hobby should be a form of escape, but not so much like an escape from life totally, but just that healthy habit that you're able to undertake and be able to enjoy that place of pleasure. But when you feel pressure, like I have to post 5 days, 6 days, and twice in that one day, it takes away the fun. It takes away the enjoyment. I'm doing it for others and not for me anymore.
Yeah. So I hide my likes, right? Because I don't want the likes to influence what I post. And it's not for anybody else. It's so that I don't get bogged down with, oh, this post only got 268 likes, right? No one likes this photo because I have anxiety, and that's how my anxiety ridden mind will take it, right? And so I hide my likes because you're gonna get what I give you, right? And if you don't respond to that, then that's fine. You may respond to the next one. I don't clock my reels. I don't pay attention to how many people have watched it. If you like it, you like it. You leave a comment, you know. I respond to every single comment that I have, because if you took the time to comment to me, I'm going to take the time to comment back. That's just how I am. Now, I get that there's some accounts that can't do that. I completely understand, but for me, as long as I can, I will take the time that if you comment to me, I'm going to comment back. I am really
helps us build as a community. Mm-hmm.
I will admit that is a lot of times how I end up following people back is like clicking because they've and for me, it's normally like 3 or 4 times we didn't had a conversation, right? And then I click on your profile and I'm like, oh, I gotta follow this person, right? I have to tell this funny story. So I had someone that they've been, commenting on my stories, right? And we've been talking for months, right? And so they was like, hey, can I show you something? I've been working on something that I want to create in 1/6 scale. And I was like, wait, what? So they create in 1/12 scale, right?
Okay.
And they decided to make a line in 1/6 scale miniatures. I was like, oh my God, where the hell have you been? And then how did I not know this? But Nisha, if you would have clicked on their profile and took to your page, like you would have known that, right? And so like it just blew my mind. And that's on me. That's not on anybody else. That's just my old brain, right? And so it's like I just fell in love with their creation. And they're coming out with a 1/6 scale line. So I am so excited. I don't want to say anything because they haven't said anything, but oh my God, like their work is amazing, and the fact that they're transferring it over to 1/6 scale just makes me happy. It's a very diverse line, and that's not something we see in miniatures right now. So I'm just so excited. But yeah, so it's normally like people, commenting, and then I end up following them, and I always feel bad because I'm like, oh, it took them like 3 or 4 times, to say something for me to go like, oh my God, I love their page. But yeah, I just feel like people should post when they're comfortable. I'd rather see really good content than a whole bunch of stuff, right? I'd rather you post once or twice a week than for you to post every single day. Because honestly, those are the people that I worry about. Like, hey, are you doing okay? Because you post 3 times a day. Like, sis, are we eating? Are we going to the bathroom? Like, what's going on? Like, that's a lot of posting, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I get that, sometimes followers or losing our followers pressure us to kind of do more than what we should. But I'd rather have my followers. I've had some people that's been with me since day one, like literally have followed me since the beginning of this journey. And I applaud them because they have watched me morph. They have watched me disappear for weeks, sometimes months at a time. And they still are riding right there with me. Like, hey, sis, we still here. When you post, right? And so you got to love and appreciate that. But I've kind of, found that the ones who love my work are, they're always going to support me regardless, either by sharing, commenting, saving, whatever it is, how they consume my content, share with other people, that's fine by me. I'm just going to keep doing this until I don't have a voice anymore, or I physically can't do this. But at the end of the day, I just think that everybody needs to do what makes them happy. If you attain to get to the level of dioramas that I create, I applaud you. I'm willing to help you get that. If that's not what you want, then do you. At the end of the day, do what you want. I don't want anybody to look at my dioramas and feel like I have to spend the amount of money that she does in order to create dioramas, because that's not realistic. I started off at the very bottom. I got to this level by choice, by my choice, right? I choose to spend this amount of money. I choose to invest this way. I do not expect everybody to. So you newbies, no, 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 no. You do not have to do this. Also, you got to understand, my children are grown. Um, one is almost out the house. One is completely out of the house. Um, but this is in other areas of my life I sacrifice so that I can do what I want to do. So
Yeah.
so I always tell people to do what you got, but then just like I showed at the beginning of the year, plan out. If you plan on wanting to take your dioramas a certain way, make a list. Like, I want to buy 2 sofas this year, or I want to invest in 4 chairs this year.
I like that.
Like, slowly build up. If you want to do a living room, buy all the pieces of living room and then move on to the kitchen, right? Even if you have only one set, you can still change out chairs in a dining room and keep the same dining room table. I think I have like 8 dining room tables. You wouldn't know it because I change out the chairs, which are way cheaper than buying a table. So it's kind of those little things. Thrifting, Walmart, Target Spot, Miniverse, like all of those different places that create miniatures, ornaments, scrapbooking. Look for stuff that's outside of the box that kind of work. Target Dollar Spot, I absolutely love. I'm a Target girl, and I hunt their Target Dollar Spot for stuff all the time for $1 or even $5 for
$3, $5.
Like, how can I use this in a diorama? Like, oh yeah, I can. So also think outside the box. Just because you haven't seen nobody else use it doesn't mean you can't do it.
I agree.
Just make it your own.
I agree. I believe one of the things, and I love Miniverse, so I have nothing against Miniverse. I've gotten a few of their stuff. I see other stuff that they have. They have that new baby line. I'm like, oh, I like that. Look at me, mom of 10. Yes, I love everything baby. But I do. I love the little mini babies that they have in the capsules. The only issue that I foresee with it's having such an explosion of miniatures that it does kind of take away the creativity, and that us, like you said early on in our conversation about being able to look around you and see what can you use for miniatures. We don't do that as much because things are just easy to purchase. I can buy it right here, or I can get this person to craft it, and I'm not saying that's a problem at all, because convenience is the name of the game, but it does kind of become a stumbling block maybe to someone who is a newbie, and they're thinking, how do I, get enough money to get the same kind of couch, or get these pictures, or get this, and they've forgotten about the wonderful beauty of making your own stuff. And then I feel that for those of us who are maybe more seasoned or more versed in the miniature world, and in one scale, 1/6 scale, 1/12 scale, any of those kind of scales, we need to also be more forgiving, give more grace and more mercy to people who are starting off, or even if they haven't started off, they may have been in it for a while, but hey, they have to choose between diapers or getting their diorama, a new new piece of furniture, and they're like, I'm gonna get the diapers, or I gotta get this going for work, I gotta get gas. We need to be forgiving of people, because sometimes I think when we see people's crafts and handmade furniture, or anything of that nature, or handmade clothes, and there could be comments that aren't always the most kindest. Because you're wanting it to look polished and look professional, but not everyone is on that level. And then there's some people who really do want to challenge themselves in craft and experience what it's like to be at the very beginning of it, and then grow and progress. And I think we just need to be more understanding about that. For those of us who are not understanding, we need to be.
And I agree, because I've had a couple of people that contact me. It's like, oh, well, such and such said that my work didn't look like your work. It should. Your work should look like mine. Your work should look like yours. Your diorama should look like yours. I get tired of looking at my own dioramas. I want to go out there and see somebody else's. So always do you. If you come to my page, if anything, I want you to come and be like, oh, okay, this does exist, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is when people's like, I see it a lot on 1/12 scale pages. Like, oh, this doesn't exist in 1/6 scale. It does. It does. It does. I promise you it does. And then also for our creatives that work in 1/6 scale well, pay them their money, because some of the people
Yeah.
I work with, I literally send them a photo and say, I want this. I don't do measurements. I don't tell you the height. I tell you this is what I want. And they recreate it down to the very last drop. That's art. I can send a photo. I'm not even there in person. And I literally get exactly what it looks like in the photo. You can't tell.
I grew up with that.
Right?
My mother was a seamstress. Yeah. And people would come in with photos. They would come in with a Barbie outfit. Yeah. Like literally the small little Barbie with the outfit and say, I want this. Yeah. And so she would be like, okay. And then she would create the pattern. And
so when I hear them go,
yeah,
this person didn't want to pay me, or this person, and it kind of upsets me, because, you messing it up for the rest of us. And that's why, when the people I work with, and they're like, well, Nisha's going to cost this much. All right, I'm going to pay it, because it's art. And I get to own a piece of your art, and I get to use it and bring it to life. I have people that create for me that won't ever publicly acknowledge that they create. And it's just because they want to see it brought to life. And that's what I do. I've had people tell me that I'm not considered a dioramist because I don't make anything. And that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to call me that. I'll be a curator if that's what you want. But I will forever be grateful and will always tell people about the ones who do create, because, come on now. They're the winners right there. I just get to add my own little version to it. They're the ones who's putting in the work. And so I will always applaud them. And we've lost so many of them over the years, that just from people not wanting to pay, or just not getting the acknowledgement, and they just kind of disappeared or stopped making. And, I still fortunately have their pieces. And it's just kind of sad, because these are really, really extremely talented people. And we just don't have their art in the world anymore. So I always appreciate the ones that are making, even when they're starting out. Encourage them, support them, share their work, share their page. I always try to do shouts out for, I don't necessarily do it so much for the mass market, but I'll always do it for the makers. Always. Every single time. If you ask me and it's a maker, I'm going to tell you, because I want you to support them, because I want them to stick around. I want them to be here in another 5 to 10 years. I want to see their pieces of museums and be like, you know what, I got that. I had them, I have one of their pieces, I was lucky. Best in Miniature, a couple of those have their own shops, and I have their pieces. You know how amazing that is, to be like, oh, you down miniatures? But there is someone who won Best in Miniature, and I actually own their miniatures in my work. You know what I mean? How cool is that? It's on television. But I think miniatures is going to be bigger and better in the future. I think we will finally, my only thing is that I hope it gets to the part where it's considered an art form and not just a commercial product. Right now, my goal is to try to make people understand that my photos is considered fine art. Yes, I'm working with miniatures and dolls, and you may consider it toys, but this is just the medium that I work in. I went through SCAD, 3 years of my graduate program, and I used miniatures the entire time. I won awards, I got a scholarship based off of this work. So it does have merit, but I want people to start seeing it as an art form, because that's really what it is. It's beyond the photo. It's a skill. And I want more and more people to join, I want more people to be out there. I want more people's work to be taken seriously and to see what it is. So with best miniature shows like that, and, people starting to cross over, right now you're seeing it in a 1/12 world. I'm just hoping and praying that one day we see it the same way for 1/6 scale. We're a little bit bigger, but, we're still here. But yeah, so all you magazine people that keep saying, also I have to put this out there, SCAD, my school, I'm really upset because you guys said you are industry giants when it comes to creativity, and no one told me that there's a Barbie stylist who does dioramas. Like, did you see that video? Hello?
Oh, yeah, I
person who gets paid to do that? I've been doing this for free, and there's someone who gets paid to do that? Really?
Yeah, I did. I saw that. That was,
How
it was very nice. Yeah, yeah. Then they ended with the stop motion. I was like,
right? Like, uh, that just broke my heart.
hey,
Like,
we still got breath in us. It can happen. It can happen.
how did I not know that that was a job? Like, really? Just, y'all never told me that.
When you were talking about being a modeling coordinator, that's a job too. My mother was doing that as well.
What?
So that is a job. Guys, these books are available
Yes.
on Nisha K's Etsy.
Yeah.
We have Serendipity, Bookish,
Yes.
Mabel.
Yes.
And let's not forget about her annual calendars. Now, are these sold out or are these still
I think
available?
I have like a couple more left in the shop, but once the calendars are done, they're pretty much they're gone for the year. So once those sell out, I'm pretty much done. I only do a limited number of the calendars. The books are pretty much there until they sell out, but there's way more copies. So, but yeah, there's more designs to come. Like I said, there'll be more short stories that I'm working on, more projects. The blog is hopefully coming in February. So if you kind of want to know how my brain works behind the scenes or how I do what I do, I can't really explain it all the time. So it may be rambling posts, but you kind of get the gist of it. But just kind of go to this next step of whatever diorama journey that I'm on. I just kind of want to take people on it to, show them, or, necessarily scare them all the time, but, just to show the work and what it takes to kind of create these little miniature worlds. So,
Exactly. Exactly. Well, guys, we thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Nisha, for allowing me your time and us being able to talk about these beautiful books. Once again, these are available on Etsy, including the calendar. Each one of these books feature beautiful photos. It has a beautiful caption at the very beginning of each one of these. And definitely give your girl a DM about any questions that you have regarding her dioramas. And she has an upcoming blog. So we will be staying in contact when you get that published as well. I want to thank you for being with me today.
Thank you. Thank you. Mwah. Mwah. You're the best. You just make this so easy. You make this so easy.
We do. It's the chemistry we have. Make sure to tell your family I said hello too.
I will. I hope the kiddos are doing well. You guys are
They're
staying
doing good. I got one
warm.
that's a little bit under the weather, so I'll be checking on her in a minute.
Yeah, this craziness. Yes. All right.
All right.
Thanks, babe.
All right. Love you. I'll be talking to you.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.